All right, so cacti, right. Everyone knows them.
Yeah.
Like, who hasn't seen a prickly pear? That bright pink fruit makes awesome candies, juices, all that good stuff. But, like, have you ever thought about where it actually comes from?
Most people, I think they don't realize the prickly pear fruit is actually from a cactus, the Opuntia.
Exactly. And honestly,
Yeah.
this plant is way more interesting than I ever thought. We're doing a deep dive into, like, its whole Wikipedia page today, and trust me, this is not your average houseplant.
No, not at all. One of the things that always gets me is how Opuntia's story is kind of the story of the Americas, Like, it's native to this whole hemisphere. From Canada way down south to the tip of South America, and over, thousands of years, people have used it for everything. Food, dyes, even building materials.
It's true.
Yeah.
And when something's been around that long and spread that far, it's going to pick up some nicknames along the way. We're talking tuna, nopal, paddle cactus.
Oh, yeah, the list goes on. And each one tells you a little something about, how people have connected with it. Like, take nopal. That's what they call the cactus pads in the wattle. That was the language of the Aztecs.
Wait a minute, hold on. You're telling me those spiky pads you see, like on the cactus, those are edible? I always thought it was just the fruit.
You'd be surprised. Yeah, those pads, or nopales, as we're calling them, they're like a staple in Mexican cuisine. They've got this, tart, kind of earthy flavor, and they're really good for you, too. Tons of nutrients. You can grill them, saute them, even put them in smoothies.
Okay, you officially blew my mind. I had no idea. This is why I love these deep dives. You think you know something, and bam, totally new information. But honestly, edible pads. That's just the beginning with this plant. It gets even more interesting.
You're not kidding. One of the most wild things about Opuntia is how it actually ended up outside the Americas. It's a mixed bag, to be honest.
A mixed bag, huh?
Oh.
Like, did someone bring a prickly pear to a potluck and, I don't know, it all went sideways from there?
You're not far off. Sometimes it was intentional. People would bring Opuntia with them on purpose because it's so useful, right?
Right.
But other times, totally accidental. And that's when things get really interesting. Like, take Australia, for example. Back in the 1800s, they brought over this specific type of Opuntia stricta they thought it would be good for, like hedges, maybe a source of food for livestock.
Yeah, makes sense. What could go wrong with a prickly hedge, right?
Well, they didn't realize how well Opuntia does in dry climates. It just took over, spread like wildfire, ate up all the farmland. By the 1920s, millions of acres just gone. Useless.
Oh, man, that's rough. That's a whole other kind of prickly situation, right? Sounds like a bad movie. Attack of the Killer Cacti. What'd they do about it?
They tried everything. Herbicides, burning, even tried to, dig it all up. But Opuntia, it's a survivor. Always came back worse every time.
So what happened? They just gave up, threw their hands up and said, all right, Australia for the cacti.
Pretty much. Well, no, not really. They got desperate, ended up using this secret weapon.
Don't tell me.
Yeah.
They called in like a cactus-eating superhero.
Not quite, but just as cool. They used a natural predator, this moth, the Cactoblastus cactora moth.
Wait, hold up. They fought back with moths.
Okay, you got to tell me more.
It's a classic example of, biological control.
Yeah?
This moth, it's originally from South America, and turns out its larvae are obsessed with Opuntia. So scientists did their homework, made sure it wasn't going to cause more problems, then bam, released them into the cactus zones.
Did it work? Did the little moth warriors save the day?
Believe it or not, total success. Those larvae went to town, just munched their way through those millions of acres. Within a few years, problem solved.
That is incredible. It's like something out of sci-fi, fighting nature with nature.
It just goes to show, even with these big ecological messes, sometimes the best answers are already out there in nature.
Yeah.
But the Opuntia story, it's not all ecological thrillers. This cactus, it has this whole cultural history too. Right. You were saying earlier, it's tied to the Americas. Right. Where do we see that connection?
Think about the Mexican coat of arms. The eagle on the cactus eating the snake.
Oh, right. I've seen that image a million times. Never really thought about the cactus much, though.
That's Opuntia, front and center on one of the most famous national symbols in the world.
There's got to be a story there. What's it doing on there?
So it goes back to this founding myth of Tenochtitlan. That was the Aztec capital city, what we call Mexico City now. The legend goes, the gods told the Aztecs to build their city wherever they saw an eagle perched on a cactus, eating a snake. That was the sign. That's where they'd be strong,
And they found it, just like that.
Yeah.
An eagle on a cactus, eating a snake right there on an island in Lake Texcoco.
Yeah.
What are the chances?
No kidding. It's a powerful image, Resilience, thriving even when things are tough. And speaking of resilience, Opuntia's story also connects to the Palestinian diaspora.
Now that's an interesting twist. How's a cactus from the Americas tied to people from the Middle East?
It's like this. Just like the cactus, right? Tough, survives all these crazy conditions. The Palestinian people, they've shown incredible resilience, especially during their diaspora. The prickly pear fruit, it's actually a symbol for them. Palestinian identity, strength, all of that.
Wow. It's kind of amazing, right? One plant, all these different meanings and histories wrapped up in it. We've covered a lot about Opuntia in the world, so to speak, but I want to learn more about the cactus itself. What makes it so good at surviving everywhere?
Good question. So to really get that, we got to zoom in on the biology. Remember those fleshy pads we were talking about? They're not just for looks or your next plate of huevos con nopales.
You're telling me there's more to these prickly pads?
Oh, yeah. They're like nature's water bottles, store water like crazy, which is perfect if you're living in the desert. And then, of course, there's the
The
spines.
spines, right. Got to be honest, though, they seem like more trouble than they were worth.
Yeah.
But, okay, there's got to be a reason Opuntia went all out on the prickly defenses, right?
Oh, there totally is. It's not just about looking tough. It's all about survival. For one thing, those spines, they actually help the cactus hold on to water.
Hold on, really? How does that work?
So they create this like little microclimate around the plant, trap moisture, provide a bit of shade, crucial in the desert. Right.
Makes sense. Anything to beat that heat.
Exactly. Plus, of course, keeps those hungry animals away. You're not exactly snacking on something covered in spines.
True, true. Not unless you're a Galapagos tortoise, I guess. But, okay, so it's not just the spines. Opuntia's got other tricks, right? I've seen them, they kind of move during the day, like following the sun.
Yeah, it's not exactly telling time, although that'd be pretty cool for a plant.
Right.
But it is about maximizing sunlight. Got to get that energy for photosynthesis. Right. So yeah, Opuntia, master of adaptation, but it's not all about self-preservation, you know? This cactus, it's a key player in its ecosystem too.
Totally. We were talking about those moth larvae earlier, the ones that love to munch on Opuntia. But there's got to be other creatures that benefit from this, right?
Oh, tons. Opuntia is like a desert buffet. Remember those Galapagos tortoises? Opuntia is a huge part of their diet. The pads, the fruit, the whole shebang. They've even got these special shells so they can reach between the spines. Evolution's pretty neat, huh?
It really is. So it's like this perfectly balanced system.
Mm-hmm.
The tortoises get their prickly pear fix. The Opuntia gets, I don't know, what's in it for the cactus?
Seed dispersal. Those tortoises, they're eating the fruit, right? Seeds get spread around, new cacti pop up. It's a win-win. But it's not just tortoises. We're talking insects, rodents, deer, javelinas, all sorts of creatures rely on Opuntia.
Like a prickly oasis in the middle of the desert. So cool. Okay, we've covered a lot here. Ancient myths, ecological roller coasters, even cactus-powered cars. But before we finish up, anything else about Opuntia that really stands out to you?
You know, it's the contrast, I think. It's the symbol of toughness, thriving in these crazy places, right? But it's also this source of food, shelter, even inspiration for us. And we're still learning. Sustainable food, biofuels, even vegan leather. The possibilities are pretty wild.
It's true. Sometimes the most amazing stuff is right in front of us all along. Who knew prickly pear had so much going on? So here's the thought for you. With climate change and everything, all these big challenges, could Opuntia the ultimate adapter? Could it be part of the solution? Something to think about. Until our next deep dive, folks.